Okay, so continuing with our math review, one of the concepts that I like for everybody to acquire, those ones who do not know or do not have clear what we call rule of three. Um, this is similar to many schools I know that they teach us cross multiplying. I think that if you get to understand clearly what a rule of three is, that might simplify a lot your life. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's do it. So first thing is that when I use rule of three in few specific cases, when I use rule of three is something that you can use in any exercise where you see that there is a proportional relationship, something that says proportional, something that says constant is a constant increase or a constant decrease, so constant, something that says there is a linear relationship, so linear relationship, something that it says direct, or direct, directly, proportional, okay? In all those cases, we can start thinking of using rule of three. So we have two types of rule of three, direct and inverse. So what is a scenario when we can use a direct rule of three? So the principle that we need to keep in mind for us to know that we need to use a direct rule of three is because there is always a relationship between two quantities. And the relationship is that if one quantity, okay, if one quantity increases, the consequence is that the other quantity increases as well, okay, also increases. This is the relationship. If one quantity goes up, the other quantity must go up. And this is something that we decide when we read the exercise because it's just gonna be on the logic that we put into the exercise. So for example, let's create a scenario here. Let's say that we have this case, we have a printer, right? So we say one printer prints, let's say 30 pages in 1 minute, okay? And we want to know how many pages, I forgot here the many, how many pages will 5 printers, let's say, print in 1 minute. That's what we want to do. So we analyze the logic, okay? We have printers and we have number of pages per minute. If we have more printers, should we be able to print more pages or less pages? So if we do the logic, the more printers we have, the more pages we should be able to print. So that means that one quantity increases, the other quantity should also increase, right? Now, for me, it's important to label the columns, okay? I try to type rule of three by columns, but not to fall into confusions or for me then to forget what each number represents. I always tend to label the columns, to name the columns. So the first column I'm gonna name is like printer, okay? Number of printers. And the second column is pages per minute, okay? So again, for me, this aspect is important. I'll put it here with an asterisk. So label or name, okay, the columns, not for you to fall into a mistake or a confusion. So we always start with from the information that we have. What do we know? We know that one printer, so it goes on this column, printer, one printer, prints 30 pages per minute. So this corresponds to 30 pages per minute. The question is how many pages? So we have an unknown, and that unknown is on the number of pages. So I'm gonna write it down on this column. Will 5 printers print? So I know that the number of printers will be 5. So this is the scenario, okay? Once you have established the scenario, like again, printers and the column of pages, so printers, the number of printers on that column, the number of pages on this column, and you only tell one printer prints 30 pages per minute. How many pages will 5 printers get? So we need to find X. And in this case, for us to find x, whenever we're dealing with a direct relationship, we need to apply a direct rule of three. You multiply the diagonal, okay? Always you'll have a diagonal like uh, that from the information given. So you always start by multiplying the diagonal. So if we want to find x from here, this step by step will be 30 times 5 divided by the other quantity. The other amount here would be 1. So if we keep solving for x, there will be 150 pages, and this will be your answer. Okay, so that is the approach whenever we're dealing with a direct rule of three. Again, that's the one that you use when the scenario, the logic indicates that if one quantity increases, the other quantity should also increase. Okay, there are two quantities that are one dependent on the other one. So if both increase, a direct rule of three. So I hope that this is clear. And on the videos, on the course, you will see those different exercises where I use rule of three, and you will be able to consolidate. Again, any questions, feel free to contact me and I'll help you to clarify. Now, let's talk about the inverse rule of three. So, in the direct, remember, the parameter that we use is that if one quantity increases, the other one also increases. In the inverse rule of three is the one that we will use, or we should use, when the scenario that we have is that if one quantity increases, okay, the other one, so the other decreases, okay, goes down. So this relationship for when are we supposed to use the inverse rule of three is that if one quantity increases, the other quantity should also decrease, okay? Increase and the other one decrease. Let's go out again with an example, okay? If we have an example, and let's say here, we're going to paint a house, okay, that I just recently did in this quarantine. So the scenario is if, let's say, two people paint a full house, paint a house in, let's say, 20 hours, okay? And he will say, how long will it take, three people to paint the same house, okay? The same house. This is what we want to explain. So what is the logic? The more people we have, should we take more time or less time painting the house? So if we have the same house, it's the same area, the more people we have, the logic indicates that, well, we should take less time, right? Well, unless we start gossiping and we waste time. But we will have more people, less time. So the relationship is inverse. In this case, we will use the inverse rule of three. To start with, the process will be the same. We define our columns, we name the columns. So in this case, I'm gonna have one column is gonna be people, the other column will be time in hours, okay? We start from what we know, and what we know is that two people will take 20 hours, right? And the case, how long it will take, so how long, that's time, so I put that unknown on the column of time, will take three people, so three people that are people, we'll put it in the column of people, so how long will three people take to paint the same house? So check out that the layout is exactly the same as the direct rule of three. What is the difference? The difference is that we will multiply, not the diagonal, but here we will start by multiplying the line, these two quantities, amounts that are on line, and we divide it by the third one. So in the direct rule of three, remember, we multiply the diagonal and divide by the other number. Here we multiply the line, the numbers that are on line, and we divide by the other number. Meaning that if from here we want to find the rule of three, the value of x, we multiply the line, so it's 2 times 20 divided by the other quantity, which is 3. So if we solve here, this will be 2 times 2040 divided by 3 hours. If you want to find the decimal, so please go ahead and do so, and this will be 3 and 4 is 1. I have one left. 4 in 10, 3 in 10 is 3, so it will be 13.33 hours, okay? That's how you do it, okay? That is how you do this thing, if the relationship is inverse. So keep that in mind. Your analysis is to define if the relationship is direct or inverse, and you know how to solve it in these specific cases, all right?